Mrs. Peacock's bank manager was seeing red. Did she spill Radcliffe's blood to put herself back in the black? And what of Professor Plum? Did his broken dream of a safari park become an all-too-real nightmare? Poor Mrs. White. Her fortune was slipping from her grasp. Did she have the will to kill? And finally, the Reverend Green. Radcliffe had ended his high-flying career. Perhaps the Reverend took a life for a life. Inscrutable lot, aren't they? But the killer will not escape, thanks to the penetrating questioning from tonight's celebrity detectives. From the travel show, the worldly wise Matthew Collins. And from film and stage to Arlington Grange, would you please welcome actress Jenny Agutter. And their rivals this evening, somebody used to keeping his eye on the ball, soccer star John Barnes. And here to shed the light of daytime on a dark deed, Pebble Mill's Judy Spires. Well, good luck, all of you. And let's now see if they're thinking what you're thinking. Matthew and Jenny, what does your sixth sense tell you about the case?
Well, the gut reaction really is that Mrs. White did it.
We thought she did it in the study with the sculpture, because that seemed to be one of the only weapons that didn't actually end up in the kitchen.
No, they're not too impressed by that. OK, John and Judy, what do you think?
Prof Plum.
With the corkscrew?
With the corkscrew?
With the corkscrew, he put his finger on it. He put his finger on it.
Yeah.
In the library.
In the library. OK, no, these are very early days, early deductions. But you at home have now got the choice between playing this like Poirot or Columbo. If you want to feel superior to the sleuths for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you actually who did it, what with and where. And if you want to work it out for yourself, then kindly cover your eyes now. All right, you can look again now. We're going to start the cross-examination, and remember, the murderer is also a brilliant liar. Those wrongly suspected must always tell the truth. All right, Matthew, Jenny, you can get stuck in.
Miss Scarlett, we saw you kissing Mr. Radcliffe, the victim, and then later on we saw you washing your hands in the kitchen to get rid of what you called his eager aftershave. Surely if you'd been kissing the victim, you'd have deposited aftershave on other parts of your body. What was the real reason for you washing your hands?
Well, Terry was a darling, but you can't imagine how keen he was. You know, he was kissing all over my hands, and he had such strong, smelly aftershave. I really wish that I'd had on some gloves.
All right, that's the first question. John and Judy, your witness.
Mrs. Peacock, please. What did you mean when you said to Brown Owl there, Colonel Mustard? When you said, I'm sure...
Please don't insult the suspects.
I'm so
Any
sorry.
one of them could be innocent until they're found guilty.
You're quite right, yes. When you said to Colonel Mustard, I'm sure you can take care of it, Mike.
He's a very highly trained military man. A failed military man, I must say, Mike. But he does manage to get things done, and that's all I meant was that he should just deal with it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Matthew and Jenny, your question now.
Well, we have a question, actually, for Colonel Mustard. I want to know what happened to the gun.
Well, you see, Professor Plum is a bit of a jackass when it comes to inventions. And I was frightened that by leaving the gun around the house, someone would pick it up and inadvertently either injure themselves or someone else.
OK, John and Judy, your turn.
We're going to go to Professor Plum, and the gun's going to come into it again. What was the cartridge supposed to do? The cartridge you invented?
Well, as you know, well, you probably don't know, but Mrs. White here is a great animal lover and a friend of the natural world in all its forms. And I was hoping that she would invest in my idea for a safari park, a killing-free safari park. And the thing I got slightly wrong at this stage, this is an early prototype of my invention, was that it didn't work at all.
At least he's honest on that point. OK, Matthew and Jenny.
Mrs. White, can you tell us why you signed all your money over to the victim, Mr. Radcliffe, and maybe not a part of it?
Well, he convinced me I was going to make so much more of it. And it was just too tempting. Oh, I could be a millionaire.
So you were prepared to let your good friend Professor Plum go down the tubes?
Sorry, Professor. Sorry, I felt a little guilty about that.
Yes. Well, it's a decision that had far-reaching consequences. John and Judy.
Reverend Green, I'm sorry to sort of doubt a man of the cloth, but who were you on the phone to?
Well, I'm afraid I cannot actually reveal the name. No, you see, the point is that before I came to this particular parish of Arlington, I worked for the Diocesan Bishop of Liverpool. And a lot of my work was with the underprivileged there. And some of them were quite shady characters. Anyway, I was talking to a man who knew Ellis, and he gave me the information. But I cannot reveal his name, or before this program is over, the heavy mob will be round to duff me up.
Well, they were all very cool under fire. For my money, if you agree at home, I think the killer was the coolest, actually. But let's get some deductions now again. Matthew and Jenny, what do you think?
We think it was Mrs. White with the shotgun in the library.
Why are you going for Mrs. White? Because they all have very strong motives.
Yes, well, I felt actually with the clever line of questioning, she showed even more avarice and gave herself away as perhaps being a much cooler, perhaps more dangerous person than we had first thought.
All right, well, let's see if you change your minds as the show goes on. Let's move across now to John and Judy. What do you think?
We're going for the Reverend Green with the glass stopper in the library. We're sticking with the library.
In the library. Well, let's go back. Matthew and Jenny, you said it was in the library, the shotgun was the weapon that was used, and Mrs. White is the killer. You've got 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. So not a complete disaster. John and Judy, you said the library again. You think it's the decanter stopper, and you're pointing the finger at the Reverend Green. You've got 1 out of 3. 1 out of 3. Not too bad, not too bad. OK, we'll adjourn now while the techs ponder on red herrings and blind alleys, but stay with us for a look at some fresh evidence that's just come in. We're back in a minute. Thank you very much indeed. Welcome back to Arlington Grange. Financial advisor Terry Radcliffe is dead, and his killer's cover story is holding up extremely well. We began with 6 rooms, 6 weapons, and of course, 6 suspects. Matthew and Jenny said that the scene of the crime was the library, the shotgun was the weapon, and Mrs. White did the deed. Now, one of their 3 deductions was correct. John and Judy also went for the library. They said the glass stopper was the weapon, and they pointed the finger at the Reverend Green. And they too scored 1 out of 3. In a minute, our guest detectives will return to the cross-examination, and to help them, we're going to take a look now at that new evidence.
Mr. Radcliffe, Terence, I've changed my mind.
No going back now, love. Wheels are already turning.
I shouldn't have signed. I need more time to think. They're all shouting blue murder out there.
That's because they want a slice of your action. Stay cool. Hang in there. Trust me. And anyway, it's too late.
Oh.
Miss Scarlett looking like the cat that's got the cream. Cats, of course, have claws, don't they? All right, Matthew and Jenny, your witness.
We're sticking to a certain extent with our line of thinking, but we want to eliminate some things, some doubts in our minds.
Okay.
So we have a question for Plum, which is the hoe. Why did you bring that in from outside, and what were you doing with it?
The hoe? Well, after I'd spoken to Mrs. White, I was a bit upset, and I thought I'd probably calm myself down by hoeing my borders. So I grabbed the hoe and set off with that. And then I thought, my God, I thought that the gun is still in the kitchen. Any of these homicidal maniacs could take it and do untold damage. So I came and looked for the gun.
All right. What deductions do you make from that?
Right.
I think we're going to stick with Mrs.
We're going to
White.
stick with Mrs. White. We do think that it was Mrs. White.
Yes.
We think that she possibly got hold of the gun, which everybody seems to be so worried about, and shot our poor victim in the study.
Okay. You're saying it took place in the study. That gun was the weapon, and Mrs. White, the person pulling the trigger. You have got 2 out of 3. You're getting nearer. 2 out of 3. You're doing well, aren't they? Very good, yes. And let's have a question now from John and Judy.
So I'm going to ask Mrs. White, did you prepare the pheasant?
Oh, I prepare all